Carolyn's gone somewhere. Welcome to the Chit-Chat Cafe. I'm Sarah Haskett and I'm here with my colleague Carolyn Barber, and we are today going to be talking about some future plans. Well, actually, let me hand over to Carolyn, who's going to tell you all about what we're up to today in our cafe. Can you hear us all right, Carolyn?
Hello, sorry, I was just shutting a window because I thought we're going to get to the outside. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah,
I'm a bit
I think
worried that my internet connection is not right.
Perhaps that's what's happening.
I might just have to come out. It should be all right, but sometimes I'm not quite connected right.
Yeah. Your picture is a little bit fuzzy, and it did seem to go a bit funny just now, but I think we're all right. So
okay.
Well, this is always the way, isn't it? There's always some kind of technical challenge.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll carry on, and if I need to kind of restart, I might need to restart my internet connection to make it better.
Sure, no worries.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Good Mental Health Chit-Chat Cafe. So we're now kind of mid-August, and so we're nearly coming to the end of our 2-month Mental Wealth Academy summer online programme. So it's been running through July and through August. There is still time to sign up for the courses on our website. All the sessions are kind of recorded or accessible in some way, so you can catch up with any of the courses, certainly if you sign up before the end of August. And what we're going to do today is we've been trying to collect feedback from people, getting some ideas about the future, finding out what's worked well, because a lot of this programme has been quite experimental. We've been trying out different ways of communicating and seeing if we can, in different ways, replicate the group environment of workshops and so on. So it has been experimental. Some things have worked better than others, and it's really important to get the feedback so we know, how we can improve. I think what we've definitely, this has been a huge learning curve for everybody, and we definitely will carry on with online courses and workshops in some shape or form. One of the things that we'll talk about today is funding and kind of how that can be done. But I'm pretty sure that we'll be carrying on in some shape or form, and hopefully alongside some actual kind of real-time courses and workshops as well. So there's a combination of the two. So today it's going to be a bit of a catch-up on some of that feedback, and hopefully there's still time then for you to contribute other ideas or join in the discussion about what you'd like to see in the future.
Yes, that sounds good. And in the comments section, I've put in there our feedback form. So that's a feedback form around future projects. So it's really important for us, even if you haven't been involved in this summer online Mental Wealth Academy, still we really want your feedback because we want to know what to do next. We want to put together some ideas and move us forward. Yeah, so that's in the comments, so please do have a look at that, and feel free to comment to us and let us know what you think about our conversation as we go through.
Any questions?
Yeah, any questions. And as I mentioned as well last week, we're always open to the possibility of people joining us in our session. We do have quite a few things to talk about today in terms of our future plans. So if you want to sort of bring some ideas into us and you want to join us in the Zoom, then that's cool as well. So just let us know in the comments and I'll share the link with you.
Okay, so I thought perhaps we could start. I mean, Sarah, you've been kind of monitoring some of the figures around numbers of people that are engaged in the, overall in the programme or for different courses. Have you got any? What's the latest feedback?
So we've got 200 people actually signed up. So
Okay.
that's pretty cool. And some of the people who have signed up it's not all in the UK too. There's some people in some different parts of the world. There's somebody I think posted to say they were from Australia. Someone else is in Canada. So we've reached out a little bit, which has been amazing. Obviously the majority of people are here in the UK, and a large amount of that is local to us, where we would normally be participating in community events. So that's kind of stands to reason. But 200 people are within the Mental Wealth Academy at the moment. In terms of being active within that, there's people are more active within some courses than others. I think the live events, the Zoom events, have been probably the most enjoyed in terms of people participating actively, but we did have the journal writing course that was not necessarily live but did have quite a bit of group interaction. That had a really good level of activity in there, and then with the other two sort of more fluid courses, your course, Carolyn, and my course, those two were put together with the same kind of way, where they were more just for people to access at different times. There was no set time really, although we did mix it up a little bit with some live webinars. It seems as though people doing those courses were happy to do them in their own time rather than have a set time on that. In terms of the overall participation, it was probably less than the live courses themselves. So it was a bit of a mixed bag really. We didn't have a great participation of numbers within the live webinars on those courses, but we did have a few people completing various different elements of the course and going through the activities and watching it within the course in their own time. But those people that were doing that weren't interested in coming in at a certain time. So that's quite interesting, because then we saw quite a high number of people active in the live events. So I wonder if that's just a marker of the type of person that went for those courses, and that was the way that they preferred to work, and maybe that's a learning point, that if we decide to work that way, where it's just more of a fluid course that people can access at any time, that we keep it that way. It's interesting, so I'd be really keen to hear what you guys think about that. Am I on the right track there in understanding these stats? or perhaps there's another opinion that could explain the same phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean, inevitably, a lot more. I mean, this happens with real-time workshops as well. A lot more people sign up online than actually participate. But we have, all the courses have had participation, which is really good.
Yeah.
And like Sarah's saying, the live events were particularly the movement through the embodiment through movement and the art.
Yes.
Live sessions.
Yeah.
And both seem to have worked really well in terms of people feeling that they were participating a bit more as a group. The
art course, I intend to join myself this week actually, and when I did the recording, it looked like so much fun. Everyone's chatting at the beginning, and sort of, they're all there with cutting things out and having a good old chin wag, as my dad would say.
Yeah.
So it was really nice. There was a really nice feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of the participation on both of those courses, they've been really well engaged.
Yeah.
So there's definite need for live events if
Yes.
we are going forward with online stuff, and we're not going to. We want to continue with some in-person sessions too, but that really depends on the climate of what's going to happen. So if we're not going ahead with them on the more sooner level, you know, more recent times, then we need to sorry, I can't talk today. The heat is getting to me. I'm losing all my words and everything. We need to be making sure we think about live events, because it does seem like that's really important.
Yeah, yeah, and interesting, because the journal writing course is the one that's actually finished now, isn't it? Although you still can sign up and do it, but in terms of the sessions of all, it's a 5-session course, and that's all out there now. And so we've had some feedback from that, which has been really interesting. I mean, the people who were involved in it obviously found it a really enjoyable and stimulating course. So people have, said, it's one or two.
We had
Sorry,
some
I'm
great
just going to
reviews.
read a couple of quotes because they're so nice, really. So yeah, people looking at why. So what do people think were the main benefits of the course? So looking at why I am me and laying some ghosts to rest. Someone else found it quite cathartic. Taking time to do a bit of self-analysis is always a good thing, particularly when it's guided and includes interesting material to consider.
That's nice.
Yeah, so people enjoyed the exercises. They, it felt like an easy, comfortable space, I think, for people to share. Sometimes some quite personal stuff, but it felt it was up to everyone who participated on what level they wanted to do that.
Yes.
And I certainly have enjoyed doing some of the exercises. I haven't quite finished the course yet, but they're just ways to make you write in different different formats and think in a different way. So I wrote a dialogue between myself and Portsmouth as my adopted home.
Okay.
So you kind of, and it's using that as a medium, a dialogue between yourself and something out there. It just kind of felt like it led me along after a while. It was a really interesting experience.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So really positive, and I think people definitely felt that they wanted similar things to continue. There was a couple of issues raised. Obviously, with the journal writing course, they were using a platform called Slack, which is a different way of organising the course.
Yeah.
Some people found that a bit tricky, especially to start with. And the other comment, which kind of links to what we were talking about before, was the sense of, or a kind of a sense of wanting to be more part of the group. I mean, I felt there was a group feeling. There was a bit of, interaction going on, people commenting on the contributions, so that you could upload your work, and get a little bit of feedback. And Maggie, who was running the course, was good at giving, just some gentle feedback, or maybe a different idea about how you could approach a topic. But I think, again, that feeling of group interaction was a bit missing for people.
We were just talking before we went on to the live show today about how we might bring that course onto the website, and run it more as a passive course, so a course that you would be able to access at any time and just kind of work through the different activities. So we're looking at doing that, which obviously doesn't make it more of a group, it makes it less of a group. But we do have the forum chat pages, so there is potential where it could be, there could be a bit of that going on, but this was a way that we thought we could carry that on, because it's been really, I mean, a lot of people have said how great the activities were and how cathartic it was as a process, and really interesting to look into yourself and have that reflection. So it seems like a really good idea to bring those activities into something that could just be accessed at any time. But yeah, give us your comments, because it'd be nice to know what you think about that.
Yeah, so that was it just really does help to get people's feedback, so but do send us your comments, and obviously for each of the specific courses we'll be asking people for more specific feedback on those particular courses, so that we've got that learning really at the end. So the other thing we've been asking people about is ideas for the future. A lot of the responses have been kind of like more of the same, and like, wanting to do more, or perhaps some variations on what we've already been doing. We've had some of the specific suggestions that have come up. One was circle dancing, so I was quite interested. I was thinking, how are we going to do that online? But I guess with the, having had the experience of the Embodiment Through Movement course, maybe circle dancing, you could find a way to do that. I mean,
how would you do the circling? That's interesting.
I don't know.
It'd be good to think about.
We'll have to ask Janet.
Yeah,
Janet she's been quite inventive, I think, in how she's done the art course on Zoom, like using the different camera angles, hasn't she?
Okay.
And she does circle dance in real time. So
okay.
I think it's something to explore anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds interesting.
More like writing, like poetry and story time. I mean, I think there's quite a lot of potential for creative writing type courses, which people do find really beneficial.
I don't know if you heard that. That was they test the alarms every Wednesday morning. Normally they do it after our session. Sorry, I mean to make you all jump out your skin. But yeah, art groups, all of that kind of stuff, that seems to be working really well. People are really engaged in the creative sessions. Yeah.
Someone suggested EFT tapping. I don't know if you know much about that, Sarah, but I've had some experience with it. But I was actually thinking probably, I don't know, that might be quite a good one for some workshops.
I've heard of people doing it online. I think it is possible. But yeah, we could look into that. I mean, we could look into potentially different types of therapy groups if people wanted that kind of thing, like a more formalized therapy. Then that's definitely possible. That's interesting feedback, because from looking at the statistics of where people are most engaged, it's actually more in the creative groups rather than the sort of more sort of self-development therapy style groups. But there have been engagement in those, so I wonder if
there's something there to do with kind of trust as well. Just in when you're engaged in more creative activities, to a certain extent, I guess there maybe feels like Um, so you're not put on the spot so much personally because you've got an activity to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know from our courses, nobody's put on the spot in our courses either, but there could be that kind of concern really about engaging with them.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. And it needs to be, people need to feel like it's a really safe place, a safe
Yeah,
space to be in.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things to think about, and it may be that because I'm thinking of like with my Discover Yourself course, we had a really earlier in the year it got kind of truncated by lockdown, so we didn't end up doing the last two sessions of the course, but the group was a really strong group. Everybody came and stayed in the group,
Right.
and I wonder whether there might be room sometimes for having combined courses.
Yeah.
So you have some elements online and some that are about, when we can actually meeting up.
Yeah, there's so many different variations to think about and look at, and it's hard to know which way to go. Because what I'm thinking with that is that we almost tried that with the webinar, that we would have this live event, but maybe we just didn't get the live event right.
Yeah. Yes.
So it might not have been that people didn't want to have a live event. It might have been more that they just thought, "Wow, this isn't quite." Maybe they didn't feel the connection enough.
Yes. Yeah. And I think with a more kind of self-development, therapeutic type approaches, that personal connection is what builds the trust, isn't it? As well.
Yeah,
and that's a difficult thing to recreate online.
Yeah, it can be, yeah, and it's hard to manage many different personal reasons for their when people have problems, there's lots of personal things behind that. It's personal about their values, about who they are, and so when you're doing that kind of session, that's much easier to manage in a room where people are actually there with you. Whereas in a Zoom group,
you can't
be, it's quite difficult. We did try that before. We've done that when we did the Befriending Your Inner Bully course, which was an online course we tried way before the whole COVID situation, and I ran 3 Zoom groups, and they worked okay. Don't get me wrong, it was fine, but on reflection from that was what took us to do the webinar style. Yeah, I think it's just going to be a bit of trial and error, and maybe we need to do things more than once before we can really decide, does this work or not.
Yeah. So and the mindfulness as well. So we've kind of shifted that a little bit as we've gone along, hasn't it? So we're doing the mindfulness now as live stream sessions on Facebook.
Yeah, and they do seem to be getting more hits as a live event or a released video on social media than they did when we first started them as Zoom groups. So it's interesting that the active art sessions were and the dancing session are really active with the Zoom group, but the mindfulness didn't work so well. It seems to work really well as just a drop-in thing on social media. People can share it, people can look at it anytime. We've got the course where people can get extra resources and stuff. So again, it's kind of like a fuzzy outlook on it, and like I said, it's probably going to take us more than just this time to make a decision what works, what doesn't. So putting that back out to you guys watching, that's why it's really, really important for us, and and crucial that we touch base with you and find out how you feel and what your thoughts are on all of these things, because trying to make sense of it, and we're trying all these different ways, and yeah, I think we're just going to have to keep trying different ways, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. So someone in the general feedback survey asked a very good question, very pertinent really to all this and the future. And so she found, or he or she, I don't know, found the journaling course interesting and helpful, and wondered how you pay for all the courses.
The key question.
Because of course they're free, badged as free courses, but they're not free in that we do have to find funding to support the courses. And we were fortunate enough for this. That's why this program is a 2-month program, because we were able to get some funding from a funder called the National Emergencies Trust, and there's a group that kind of managed those funding applications called the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Community Foundation. So we applied to them for the funding, and this particular funding stream, you could apply for so much money, but it had to be done before the end of, within 3 months. That was it. So the project had to be done within 3 months. And that's one of the things about applying for funding, is there's all kinds of different criteria. You don't just get it, you have to you have to present your project, you have to see what the funder wants to fund, see if you fit into that, and so on. So we were.
I'm glad you do that bit.
So it was brilliant that we got the money, but it was it was pretty tough to fit it all in within 3 months. So we had like a month to get it all ready and then launch it, and that's why it's finishing at the end of August, because we then have to report back to our funders about how the money was spent and whether it was successful or not, that kind of thing. So we have to then think about, well, how are we going to fund this in the future? And we are looking at other funding opportunities to do that. And that's partly why we need all the feedback as well, because for funders, that's a big deal. They need to feel that what they're spending their money on is actually having an impact in some shape or form, and the best way to show that is through feedback from people. So all your comments, are brilliant, because that helps us then apply for more funding. And I have to say, the funding environment is not easy. So the other thing we have to think about, and we've also been asking people this, is what about paying for the courses online as well? I think we mentioned at the beginning about it is a constant experience that lots more people sign up for the courses than do actually turn up. So we are considering if we kind of run these courses online without the live elements, if you like, but as recorded courses, whether we could charge a small fee to access that, and then if there were other live courses, whether whether people would be prepared to pay. So we don't know. So we've been asking you.
Yeah, it's really crucial to try and figure that out, isn't it? And obviously, if we've got something that's recorded online, especially if it's part of what we've already produced, then we can do that in a very cost-effective way, which would mean access to that at really reasonable, quite low rates, really, in comparison to, say, what we might have to charge if we were going to try and do a live event. Because obviously we've had that funding to be able to do that, and nothing really in this world comes for free, so but it does cost. It costs quite a lot of money to run live events, and there's always an overhead attached to that too, where you're committing the money before you've sold any tickets. And traditionally, as a cooperative, we've always mostly ran on funding, haven't we?
Yeah.
We definitely still want to carry on doing that, but we also want to look at being quite sustainable, and to be able to have what we've got on there at a very small charge, that just allows us a little bit to keep that sustainability going, so we can keep pushing out for more funding to do the live events, to do the bigger things.
Yeah, and I think, it's a similar situation in a way to real-time events, isn't it? If you're going to, community activities in a local centre, or kind of creative arts-based activities, adult education, all those kind of things usually involve some sort of cost, and very often are also subsidised. So sometimes it's a combination of funding and trying to make things affordable for people. So that's, again, we need to wrestle with that, and what, the other thing which you might not be aware of, because unless you're in that world you don't realise, but applying for funding can take some length of time as well. So I'm literally, at the moment, I've just sent off a funding bid, not for this, but for another project that we run called Books Alive, just a small funding pot, and I'm not going to hear anything until November, December. So, the kind of timeline for funding applications can take a while. So it might be a period between the end of this project before we're able to access more funding. You know what I mean? Just because of the timeline. So we've got to just look at different options, I think, depending on where we're at.
And of course the cost it takes in somebody actually putting those bids together. It takes a lot of time. It's a lot of work to put those bids together. So if there's an opportunity that we can take in building some sustainable small pieces of income to come in, then that's going to help support us to be able to put that work in for more bids, plan for more projects, get that funding, and then as Carolyn said, in that time process new things will come along.
So it would be great to get more feedback on that. I mean, we've already got some feedback on that idea of whether people are willing to pay, and most people have been quite positive about that.
Cool.
It's good to get a kind of a wider feel for the impact that might have for people.
And it might be that we could look at potentially sort of like different sliding scale type arrangements. Maybe if people came back and said, well, look, I don't know when my next pay packet's coming, but I really value what you're doing. It could be that we're going to take in everyone's comments, and we're going to look at that, and we're going to talk about that as a committee and see how we can do things, because we want to be accessible, but we also want to carry on doing it. and that's sometimes a little bit conflicting in terms. So if there are other ways that we can manage things by maybe offering different price brackets, things like that, give us your suggestions. Feel free to tell us what you think would be a good way of resolving the issue that you're in. Great.
Okay, so that's probably. Have we got any comments or questions?
Let's have a look. So there's no comments there at the moment, but hopefully some people might have gone to the form and put something in on that, so we'll check that out in a minute. So if you have done that, thank you very much.
Yeah, so that's probably going to be a lot of what you hear from us in the next couple of weeks is feedback, reviews, evaluation. Tell us what you think, so that we've got some real evidence to kind of plan for the future then.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And it'd be quite cool to carry on these streams too. Obviously, these streams sort of were part of the project. But I mean, I've gotten into learning all the tech, so I'm really keen to carry on. But we'll see. So give us your comments, get involved, let us know. And the more we hear from you, the more we can do. So yeah, great.
Okay.
We will see. We'll watch this space. Something will happen with streaming with me, whatever happens.
Yeah.
I think. But in regards to the Chit-Chat Cafe, we're here for the next few weeks, aren't we? Talking.
Yeah, next couple of weeks. Next week, just as a reminder, next week is our second mental wealth trialogue event. So if anybody is interested, so this, just to remind people, that the trialogue is a kind of open. So if you're interested in group engagement, the trialogue is a brilliant way to get involved. The Zoom format has actually what we found worked quite well last time for the trialogue. It's an open dialogue, structured way of talking about mental health in a more kind of exploratory, reflective type of way. It's always interesting to hear people's views, inspiring. It's a great forum to just to have the opportunity to talk about mental health in a way that we don't often get the opportunity to do. So
yeah, they're incredibly inspiring events. And just come, whatever you're thinking. If you're not quite sure and you think, I don't really understand what that's all about, just come. And you can sign up on the website. You'll receive your link and you'll get a reminder as well. So
lovely.
Cool.
Have we done the day, do you think?
Yeah, can we go and pass out and just this heat is my brain. Mind you, it's not really built yet for today. It's still relatively cool-ish, but I hope you guys out there are surviving and not melting too much. Yeah. Right. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye.
It's too late tonight to check the